Hey, it's Leona Ray here. I am a founder of Freedom Flow and I help people reclaim their truth, their life force, and their power. I wanted to talk today about the guardians of Freedom Flow and what happens during systemic ritual and a little bit about my story. Hope you enjoy and don't forget to follow me and subscribe. Thank you. The Jaguar who found me before I found myself. Have you ever reached a point in your life where everything simply disappeared? Your relationship, your home, your career, your identity which you were building, and you sit there wondering like, who am I? If you have, then this story is for you. Today I want to tell you something I've never truly shared before. The story of how Freedom Flow was born, not as a business, not as a method, but as an initiation. Every Freedom Flow ritual begins with the same way. We open sacred space, we open what we called medicine wheel and 4 directions. We invite the master guardians and the wisdom of Mother Earth to walk beside us. It's the earth consciousness, plants, animals, all the good, beautiful things which the Mother Nature offers us. And one of those guardians is a jaguar. For me, jaguar is far more than spirit animal. He represents the courage to walk in the places within ourselves that we spend our whole lives trying to avoid. Fear, grief, loss. He is like a proper, even death. This is like a proper spiritual warrior. And I'm not talking here about the physical death. In Freedom Flow, we see death as the tool of the transformation, as the resource of transformation to move you from what is not longer valid for you, than identity, something which keeps you in pain, in loops, in patterns. And this is the probably stems from trauma and wounding and the accumulated energy which really weighs you down and not moving you forward in life. So the west direction on the Freedom Flow, if you have it, is that thing which really stops you enjoying your life, stealing your life force, your power. And that's why we're saying the death needs to happen, the death of identity, the death of old burden, loyalties. So just I wanted to clarify that. So this is the death of who we thought we had to be. Jaguar stands in the west, the direction of our emotional world. He walks beside the water element, what still needs to be integrated, where memories, hidden pain, and forgotten part of ourselves patiently wait to meet them. Jaguar doesn't remove fear. He kind of teaches us how to walk with it. He teaches us the courage. Many indigenous traditions also speak of Jaguar as the guardian of the rainbow bridge, the keeper of gateways between the worlds. For years, this became the focus of my work. I completed more than 8,000 past life healings, believe it or not, and karmic clearings. I think I really mastered the shadow walking, and people really was asking me the time, why do I feel trapped in the relationship? Why does this fear feel older than my own life? Why do I keep repeating the same story? And again, I witnessed how the soul remembers what the mind has forgotten. That's why when I see you as consciousness. I see you in that unconditional love, past your shadows, past the wounding of the ego, and also the shadow patterns which you can either operate from, you can project it from. When we work with the shadow can really trick us very well. So we need to be really observant and instinctual, I would say, when we're dealing with that. So the story is that I didn't choose this work because it sounded interesting. I choose it because my own life had fallen apart and I need to pick myself up. 9 years ago, I lost almost everything. My family, my home, my business. I lost help with raising my kid, become single mom. I drowned in debt from the mistake by counsel. It was almost like magical tower moment in my life. And then I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. So the physical body really suffered. And I remember sitting there feeling completely empty. Like there was nothing left to hold on to. Nothing left that looked like the future I had imagined. I remembered having one terrifying thought. Maybe it would be easier if I simply wasn't here anymore. Not because I wanted death, but because I couldn't see a life before the pain I was living. Perhaps some of you listening know exactly what I mean. Sometimes we don't actually want our life to end. We simply want the suffering to stop. But looking back now, I realized that wasn't the end of my story. It was my first initiation, believe it or not. Life was asking one question: will you choose life? Even when life no longer is looking the way you hoped it would. And I said yes. Not because I felt brave, but because something deeper than fear whispered, there is more. With the last money I had, I trained in NLP, hypnotherapy, and past life karmic healing. I wasn't searching for a career. I was searching for a meaning. And that was it. I left the hamster wheel. I left 9-to-5 job. And I start helping people see their stuckness, their patterns, and releasing for them and liberating them. Almost like escorting. I'm always saying that I'm like the escort for the consciousness to come back to the light. And clearing the certain energetical pattern which were keeping them stuck. And people had such a beautiful openings, and I saved quite a few lives, and I see this as a service to people. You know, this is when the life called me to save it. I gave a purpose to my suffering by allowing me to sit with people who are walking through their own darkness. You know, I prayed with them, I cried with them, I witnessed them remember who they truly were. And somewhere along the way, they were healing me too, because everyone who comes to your life is a mirror. As the years passed, I started noticing something where whenever someone's life was in this liminal space, maybe of illness, of divorce, grief, betrayal, or a spiritual awakening, the pattern underneath was often the same. And all identity was dying, but nobody had thought as how to die before we could truly live. And that becomes my life's work, not helping people feel better, helping people become someone new. And I began creating initiations for the spiritual warriors at heart. I remember it was in 2019. Working with the warrior consciousness. I was studying transpersonal psychology then, so everything was beautifully scientifically based. It's not like I'm talking about just some imaginary spirit world, but very much of the ancient way of initiation and the rite of passage. And for people standing in that strange, terrifying place between two lives, the old one has already ended. I couldn't go back to my old self, but the new one hasn't yet begun. And anthropologists call it a liminal space. I call it sacred threshold. People often ask me, what exactly do you do? And this is my answer. I became a bridge. When identity has to die, I lend you my dagger of truth, not to wound you, to gently cut through illusions, through inherited burdens, through unconscious loyalties, through the stories that were never truly yours to carry, so that your spirit can finally become free. And then I lend you that direction, that bridge. This is your truth. This is, you need to go this way. I cannot do the journey for you. I cannot relieve that. But like that, a lollipop lady on the crossing, I can be there with all the eyes and ears I have developed, that spiritual eyes and ears, to help you cross that. And I remember that truth, that time also no one and nobody was holding me except the medicine wheel, except that guardians, except the earth beneath my feet. I often felt profoundly lonely, yet I never truly felt abandoned. It was as Mother Earth herself had adopted me. She became the ground beneath my grief, the witness to my becoming, the teacher, and then the transpersonal psychology found me, the science, the father, the mind, the explanation of the processes which I was going through. And suddenly I had a language for everything I had experienced. Spirit and psychology. Psychology is actually the knowledge about psyche, knowledge about the soul, where, this kind of words never separate, the left and right hemisphere. They become a bridge, and that bridge become now a freedom flow. Freedom flow is born from 90 years of countless sessions, experiences, my own initiations, in order to put a method to help you go through death and rebirth, or help you to liberate things which are holding you down. So we open sacred space, we invite the guardians, and the Jaguar still walks beside us. Not to rescue us, but to remind us that courage is not the absence of fear. The courage is choosing life again and again. If you are standing in the middle of your own collapse, if you feel that, life happens to you, poor little me, she did this to me, he did this to me, like, why life is so hard, you are probably still in victim consciousness, and the Jaguar will teach you how to become the warrior, how to overcome that obstacles. And, your life may not be ending. I'm not talking about that. Your old identity may be simply making space for the person who you came here to become. Healing helps people feel better, and initiation helps people become someone new. That's the difference. And if life has brought you to this channel, perhaps your initiation has already begun. And I know that people who come often to my life, they probably will need my medicine, and my medicine will either piss you off or you will fall in love with it, because holding polarities between that part which destroys the pain, destroys the shadows, integrates the shadows, and that opposite force of unconditional love, nurturing, and creative sexual life force is the medicine I will always have to hold, because this is who I remembered I became after all those journeys. So I know exactly, how you most likely you will react to me. I understand why, but it's not really my responsibility to rescue you until you ask. You need to come and ask. It needs to be the choice. It needs to be the journey and a freedom flow, medicine wheel, the Mother Earth, waiting for your spirit to finally liberate yourself and manifest the life you truly want. Aho.